access the YouTube live. It's getting live streamed now. I'll start sharing my screen. Just give me a moment. I'll start sharing my screen. Yeah. Okay, friends, can you see my screen? I'm just is my screen visible? Is my screen visible, Shipra?
No, Shivesh, it's not visible.
Got it. I think I pressed something when. Can you give me the hosting rights? Because
I will do that. I will. Wait. I've just made you a co-host, Shivesh.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully my screen is now visible, and thanks very much for patiently bearing with me in getting started. The theme for today's discussion, as you're aware, is critical thinking, developing critical thinking skills. And prior, we have discussed in the previous masterclass how the skills required in 21st century is changing. And World Economic Forum, they released this Future of Jobs report, and they came out that critical thinking, complex problem solving, they are the top two skills in the 21st century, and everyone is sort of hovering around this. Now, this is not new. If for an educator, if you look at the history of education, the way education was always designed, there was, at least in the policy framework, there was this term used that we will build the students as future critical thinkers, right? And why someone like World Economic Forum has to reiterate this is when we move with time, sometimes what is written in the policy and the way things get implemented in real life, there is a disconnect. And that's why there's a time to reinforce. So I was listening to Shipra ma'am while, I was uploading my presentation. One of the things that I really want to start off with, when you look at this statue, when you look at this image, what word comes to your mind? I am really looking at the chat boxes. If you Okay, so I'm hearing some odd voices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute all, and you will have the right to unmute yourself. So anyone who wants to speak, if you have the right to unmute yourself, but I have put everyone on mute all at the moment. Or you raise your hand, then I'll certainly unmute you. Now, in the chat box, what does this? Yeah, so Neha Garg is saying thinking, pondering, he is thinking. Yuthika is saying it's a sculptor, of course, deep in thought. Kanak Lata ma'am, fantastic. He's thinking something. And just for the quiz question, if you were able to identify this statue, this is one of the most famous iconic statues. The statue is very depressed, Pooja ma'am, okay, thinking deeply. So this is one of the most iconic statues in the world, right? And this statue is called the Thinker, and the artist who made this, his name is Augustine Rodin, right? And this is one of the statue of a thinking man, and they say that from whatever direction you look at this person, you will come up with different words, right? But this man is in deep thought into something. Sometimes people say that it's depressed, is thinking so deeply with a burden of thought that is putting slouching and depressed. But that's the whole world of thinking. So when we say thinking, just to begin further, when we say thinking, what words come to your mind? Anyone, if you can, mute yourself or just raise your hand and I come to you. When you hear the word thinking, what words come to your mind? If you raise your hand, I can see you all. Or you want to put it in the chat box, I can read what words. Imagination, creativity. Some children are playing in front of him. Okay, so for the thinker. But when you think of thinking, imagination and creativity are the two words which I have got now. Any other words? Imagination, something unique, want to do something unique. Thinking is one of the most important activities. So what I did was, before I was getting started, I went to the visual thesaurus and I put the word thinking, and it gave me the mind map of the word thinking, right? And I can see some of the interesting things matching, right? Thinking about an issue out of the box, analyzing, reasoning. If you can see here, the word which comes with thinking is something like reasoning, line of thought, chain of thought, ideation, right? A train of thought, okay? Problem solving, free association. And then there are some harder words, excogitation, right? Synthesis, mental construction, abstract thought, mysticism. So there are various words which come with the word thinking. I really like Pushya Mitra Varma from New Creation writing the word research, right? So thinking, with when you hear the word thinking, research comes in your mind, imagination, something unique. Thank you. So just to carry on the conversation further, what I did was I just tried to do the mind map further. And the word think has associated words called think back, think up, think over, right? Multiple words are there. And then there are something related word called cerebrate. So think in your mind, consider, believe, conceive, right? Modify, change, alter, okay? Concentrate, focus. So when we say thinking, all these words come to our mind, right? Now, I have a quiz question and I want everyone to respond in the chat box. So my question, which is relevant to the audience right now is rank the usefulness. And can I unmute your ship? I am unmuting you all. Okay, you can all unmute yourself, right? So you have the power to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. And yeah, if you want to talk. Now I'm giving few methodologies or few pedagogies. And the question is, rank the usefulness of these pedagogies in terms of lifelong or a long-term learning, right? So I have put some 8 pedagogies here and we go one by one. So the first one is learning by reading, LBR, reading memorization. How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how useful is this method for a long-term, value in life? Okay, so Pooja is saying 9. Any other thoughts? Learning by reading. Anita ma'am is saying 5. Deepa is saying 1. So we are able to see two extremes. Deepa is saying 1 and Pooja is saying 9. Swati is saying 2. So we any more quick answers? If you give 1, 5, 4, 3, 2. So I'm taking some average number and I'm putting a score of 4 here, 3 to 4, right? So the group here is saying the average rating of this method, reading, memorization, fact-based learning, all that is on a scale, at a scale of 4. Learning by lecturing. Learning by lecturing. This is for all of you. I'm putting learning by lecturing. After that, if you can say learning by lecturing, what's your score? Okay, 6, 3, 7. We're all teachers here. Learning by lecturing, 7, 7, 5, 5, 6, 3. Okay, so I'm giving an average score of learning by lecturing of 6, right? So let's say, and I'm being 5 to 6 is the score. Learning by experience sharing, experience sharing. Okay, learning by experience sharing. Okay, Swati is saying 6, Anita is saying 1, 8, 3, 9. So someone, I'm getting a larger, wider range here, but I think this is now hovering at a score of between 6 to 7. 6 to 7 is the score that we are getting. Activity and project-based learning, activity, or I'm putting the PBL, 10, 9, 8, 8, 9, 10. So certainly for this, the scores are shooting up, and this is ranging in the range of 8 to 10. Okay. Aparna, I'll come to you. Just give me a moment. I'm just coming to you. I'll take and then I'm putting two more things. LBQ, or LBQ is learning by questioning. LBQ, and there are two forms which I have written: inquiry based and dialogue based. What is the learning? Again, we are getting 9, 7, 8. Okay. Again, we are getting a score which is higher. So it is between 7 to 9 is the average rating. And learning by group participation, which is participative learning. Any learning by participation, I'm getting 8, 9, 10. Again, this is in the range of 8 to 10. Right? So these are the various pedagogies through which people learn. And someone had raised hand. I think it was Aparna ma'am. If you want to say something, you can unmute and speak, or I move forward. Right? I have, uh, uh, you know, Plato, who was a famous philosopher. He says that thinking is talking of the soul with itself. When we think, the soul is in connection. We talk to our soul, right? And I'm sure most of you would agree that when we think, we talk to our soul, right? But the real hard question is, in life, we don't get much time to think. In the pace of life, we get much less time to think. But from here, I move to the next question. And we have added a prefix to the word thinking, which is called critical thinking. So what is it? Anyone who wants to speak, raise your hand. You want to speak, we'll take 2 or 3 quick responses. Anyone wants to go? Or Shipra ma'am had already asked this question, but still you have a chance. Anyone who wants to speak? So in the chat box, I have got Anita's answer. I got some fantastic answer. It's a disciplined approach to solve problems and taking every challenge and converting into opportunities. Fantastic, deserves a round of applause. Anita is saying critical thinking is kind of thinking where you question, analyze, interpret, evaluate, right? So it's all the stuff, right? It's a disciplined approach, again, to solve problems, create opportunities, right? Fantastic. So thanks for the 2 or 3 wonderful answers that I really got. Now, same question, which I asked you before. Nothing changes. The only thing which changes is, how are these pedagogies useful for new situations? Anyone who wants to speak? New situations? Learning by memorization, lecturing, right? And if we really have to move, we can find that the scores keep on increasing if we go down, right? So the hard question for us is, and for educators here, is that if we know, 97. Okay, if we know that a form of learning which could be inquiry based, which could be dialogue based, which could be project based, which could be activity based, which could be experience sharing based, etc., is important for new situations. Most of the pedagogies in classroom today is hovering on item numbers 1, 2, 3, perhaps, right? Lesser on 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pooja ma'am, would you say, you have raised your hand?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, good evening. Actually,
Yes.
I have given reading, I have given 9 marks, 9 points, because as a language teacher, I can say reading is very important. For small kids, both readings, loud as well as silent. And those who are grown-ups, they can do silent reading. Reading is very important for language. That's why I have given 9.
Got it. No, I
That's what.
understood, right? So there could be streams of subject where one of these
Yes.
forms become more important. Thank you for pointing that out. Uh, Very important, right? But the real thing is, if we really look at the life canvas, and we are all grown-ups, we have seen multiple seasons and springs in our life. Uh, what form of learning really matters in new situations? If we have to choose one of these, which one would you choose? I'm looking at the chat box for your answers. So Muni Samatha is putting 4 activity-based. For life, activity-based learning is more important. Thank you, Muni. Yutika is saying 1. Okay. I'm getting more ticks for 4. I'm getting more ticks for 4. Activity-based 4, 5, 6. Thank you. 8. I'm getting participative learning, right? Participative learning, 8. Activity-based learning. So suddenly we realize that 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, right? So this group is very clear. What matters for students if we have to prepare them for new situations? Now, why new situations? Because life, the future as we see in life, is going to be full of new situations. The world is changing very fast. What we teach today will not be relevant tomorrow, right? But how we teach today, if we impart this whole skill for learning how to learn, then that becomes important tomorrow. And then from your own answers, we are getting this whole pedagogical approaches, which is important for future. So thanks very much for this participation. I move forward. And again, my visual dictionary gave me a whole lot of chain of thought about what is critical thinking. It's a higher cognitive process, right? It's a out of box thinking. It's intellectual process. It's reasoning. It's a line of thought. It's free association. It is convergent thinking. It is divergent thinking, right? These are all the parts of or subsets of critical thinking. And some of you already gave the answer what critical thinking is. I have got a long form answer, right? Shipra ma'am, can I request that you post in the WhatsApp group that this is on YouTube live, or if Vandana, you can post on YouTube, the YouTube live, such that people who are waiting, they can go there. Now, if I really have to look at what is critical thinking, of course, people identify it's a disciplined process, right? And this disciplined process requires 4 or 5 important things. If you really take this slide, I think this session is really old. We really need to go, don't go anywhere far. This slide encapsulates most part of what a critical thinking process is, right? And this is defined by, there's a very vibrant community of more than 10,000 people across the globe, which is called the critical thinking community. So they keep on updating, revising the definition, and they came up with this definition of conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, and synthesizing and evaluating information. So what we do is we play with information, right? And this information can be gathered in multiple manners through observation, the way we see, by our experience, by our reflection, by reasoning, by communication, and many other manners. Now, this has to ultimately serve as guide to our action. So if critical thinking is leading us to no action or to no belief, then it is not critical thinking. The outcome of critical thinking is it has to it has to it has to help us into a new set of belief. It has to lead us to believing something new, right? And then we move into an action, right? So this is a detailed, definition. It has number of threads in it. If you can really see, there are 5 threads in this line, and then there are 5 threads again on this line, and then we can have multiple combinations of this, and I can add more words to it. So a number of people have added more words to it. We will only look at the problem as it. I'm only trying to unbox this whole term. Now, before I move further, I have a third question, and in the chat box, I'll go one by one. So don't rush to your answer. What is the value of assessment system that we have today, that we practice today for the long-term learning? So the first is MCQ. How valuable is MCQ on a scale of 1 to 10? On a scale of 1 to 10 for long-term learning. This is the assessment system, right? So teaching is one part of it, assessment is another part of it. How valuable? 1 to 10. I'm looking for answers. Teachers, 5, 8, 8, 8, 5. Okay. So I'm getting a range of answers which range from 5 to 8. Interesting. And then how valuable is the HOTS MCQ, higher order thinking skills kind of MCQ? So I'm putting HOTS, how valuable? So I'm getting a range which has moved up now. It is ranging from 7 to 9, right? And how valuable is something which is called fill up the blanks for a long-term learning, the assessment that we use, fill up the blanks for long-term learning. Okay, how valuable is, okay, now the score has gone down. It ranges from 3 to 7. Okay, and how valuable are things called short answers for long-term learning? The important thing is long-term learning. Short answers, I get 3 to, again, it is getting 3 to 8. Now I'm asking a harder question, closed-ended long answers. How valuable are these for long-term learning, right? What does it mean? Someone is saying closed-ended, right? Closed-ended answers are when you are looking for a particular answer, right? So someone is saying it is 2 to 7. And what about open-ended answers? I'm putting a chat box open-ended. And Aparna and everyone, so the answer, so the range is 7 to 9. Again, I am getting a higher answer. Now, how valuable is case-based assessment for long-term learning, right? So now again, it moves 7 to 9, 7 to 9, more closer to 9. And I have the last one, I'm putting gamified or a simulation-based learning. So you create simulations and I'm getting answers which are closer to 9 to 10, right? Thanks very much. Now, if we are in know of all these tools, the hard question for us is, why is our examination system hovering around this? That's something that we really need to ponder, right? And we are in this session, and all of you, first of all, I really want everyone to clap and congratulate for yourself, because all of us here have assembled to unbox this term critical thinking, because we believe critical thinking is important for the next generation. It's important for our students, and we really want to apply this for our students. So, friends, these questions are only for us to. So, and Aparna I agree with you, your lamentation, right? That we are not changing the evaluation system. And this word that I have, marks inflation. प्राइस इन्फ्लेशन तो हो ही रहा है, मार्क्स इन्फ्लेशन भी है. Everyone is striving for 95 to 99% today, right? So in this age of marks inflation, we really need to be asking, can we really create or build students for the next generation, right? So friends, the real challenge that educators face today is the challenge what we call thinking what to think versus thinking how to think. Thinking what to think versus thinking how to think. And every time we adopt this position. Time after time, we take this position, right? A teacher sitting in the classroom, summarizing the class more often, right? If you look at number of hours that a student spends in the classroom, this whole thing, what to think, lecturing, right? And this lecturing happens in multiple forms. right? Someone stands up in the podium at different forum, at conference right now, perhaps me also, me too, right? Thinking what to think rather than thinking how to think. And this question has been explored in multiple books, right? So there are books after books, books after books. You really don't need to be attending this seminar if you really put the right question in the Google chat box. And forget Google, we are in the age of chat GPT. If you ask thinking how to think, you will start getting those answers, right? And when I was struggling with this question, thinking how to think, I came across, and this is my truth of life. How do we know what we know, right? This is a hard question, right? How do we know what we know? Are there set patterns, mechanisms through which we keep on learning, or there are different ways in which we can keep learning, right? So thinking how to think is the real challenge. And as educators, we really need to be delving more on this. Now, I would like if anyone wants to share one or two quick experience, how are they using, what strategies are they using on within their classroom on thinking how to think? How do you teach thinking how to think to your students? Anyone can raise your hand and unmute, and in that order we will go. Anyone who's trying to teach thinking how to think? Yeah, can
Sir,
you raise your hand? Yeah, please.
Sir, in my class, I used to ask probing questions, sir. I will explain a concept. I won't tell them the next sequence or something. I'll ask them to think over what could be the next situation.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
So,
what could be
so
the earlier one?
can I have your name, ma'am?
Thinking problems.
Can I have your name, ma'am?
Rajeshwari, sir.
Yeah, Rajeshwari, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful insight, right? So give me the next step. I have given two steps. Now give me the next step. The next step. Very good. Thinking how to think. And you are keeping an open-ended situation. Pooja, ma'am, would you like to speak? Kindly unmute.
I use the jigsaw learning, sir.
You use
Jigsaw learning in the class.
learning. Jigsaw learning, right? Jigsaw. Jigsaw is a very, it's a, right? So it's again, fill up the blanks, right? Or rearrange, reorder, jigsaw learning, right? A flashcard, a cardboard, or we can create jigsaw in any matter. Neha, in any form. Neha Garg, would you like to speak?
Yeah, sir, I'm actually Ragini Gupta from Sandipni School in Bangalore.
Yes.
So for the high school, I recently started off a strategy this year of, having some connected topics from the newspapers. So we get newspaper in the morning for students. So I would tell them to, collect those articles, and I'll just tell them to kind of stick on the A4 sheet and connect to their learning. So it would be, suppose we had a topic on population and we got a recent article about our country touching 8 billion. So, I told them to connect it, think as much as they can beyond the topic, from the topic and beyond the topic. So that really helped them understand.
No, fantastic. I really love this, right?
Yeah.
Connecting the learning with the real life, and you bring the newspaper, and then a lot happens there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Anyone else who wants to say? Neha Garg, I can see two Neha Garg, but two hands raised. Anyone who wants to speak, please unmute.
Myself, Yogesh.
Yes, ma'am. Yogesh, ma'am.
I give them playing the games, different type of maze.
Maze games, right?
Yeah, maze game. Yeah.
Maze games, right? So a variation of jigsaw, a maze game. So and then you really want them to think through, find the route, right? In the next.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. So great to hear some of these learning strategies. And now I move to my next part of presentation. And really, I really want everyone to be while you can go on. Thank you. Thank you. Right. So the real challenge with critical thinking is, and this is, a disease. This is the real disease which is there, right? It's like active listening problem, right? We all have this ability to listen, but our attention is not in listening. Similarly, we all have this ability to know, but we don't want to think critically, right? So this is the malaise that we have to, as educators, we have to address. And I'm saying not from a pedantic viewpoint. This is something as if we can collaborate and solve this problem in a nice manner, in a fun manner, then perhaps learning can be fun. And then we are building a whole pipeline of future leaders for the country, right? So we are preparing students for future and for future skills. Okay. So it's all about what we call is building a mental habit, and that is about preparing students to think about their thinking, right? So whatever I'm saying, it's all about preparing students to think about their thinking. So I now come to the last part of my presentation, which will take about 20-25 minutes, and we'll be open. What could be the barriers to critical thinking? What are the barriers which could be there in your mind, which could be, which inhibits critical thinking in classroom? Anyone wants to go? Anyone wants to speak? Please raise your hand. We'll take one or two opinions. What are the barriers to, what stops us from bringing critical thinking in the classroom?
Limited resources, limited knowledge about the subject.
Sorry, limited knowledge. So you said two things. So limited resources and limited knowledge. Limited resources. And what do you mean by limited resources?
Maybe we are not going beyond the syllabus or
fantastic, right? So syllabus acts as a constraint, right? The whole curriculum framework is acting as a constraint. Is that what we are saying?
Yes, sir.
Pooja ma'am, what do you want to say? Add, and then Neha. Sir?
Yes, sir. Lack of listening skills, lack of understanding skills, and lack of school leadership.
Lack of leadership. So I am skipping the lack of listening and understanding, but I am writing lack of leadership in school, right? So
yes,
if the school leaders are keen, then you are saying that it can happen. If they are not keen, then syllabus. Stick to the syllabus. Don't
school,
go ahead.
sir, school should have leaders, not bosses. This is the main problem.
School should have leaders, not bosses. Thank you very much. Neha ma'am, would you say something? Neha girl.
So, sir, I feel that children read, but they don't interpret properly. So once they don't interpret, they are not able to, relate it further. So for me, I feel one of the bottleneck is interpretation part.
Interpretation.
Interpretation
Fantastic.
and analysis.
So teaching how to interpret, and if we can teach how to interpret, a lot of problem can be solved. Fantastic. What are the barriers? So we are not teaching how to interpret. That's what you are saying.
Exactly, sir. Like analytical skills maybe we are able to develop. I feel that we are on to, that completion of portion. That's how our school education system has been. So we tend to just complete portion. It's like a fight to complete the portions and not to think building that analytical skill.
I got it. Swati ma'am, would you like to add? Swati,
yes, sir. I feel. Can you hear me? Good evening.
Yes,
I feel parents are also a factor which will curb the thinking of the students, because even if we expose them to the thinking with the nature and all that realistic problem, they are made fun of from their friends, relatives. It is all impossible things. So external factors are also contributing to this.
Fantastic. I really like what you're saying, right? So parents, and if parents are after marks, and
Yes,
critical
marks,
thinking
marks,
is not
marks.
very
But
to
we have
marks,
to take them also into our confidence.
right, right. Thanks. I see more hands raised, but all
Shivesh.
can you all rename yourself?
Shivesh, can I just interrupt 1 minute?
Yeah.
So a lot of teachers have joined with the idea of Neha Garg. I'm just requesting these teachers to rename themselves so that we know that you know who
Yeah.
you are and call you accordingly. Thank you.
Yeah. Please rename yourself. It'll be easier for me to coordinate with you. Right. Thank you. So friends, the barriers in my mind, and I think we have covered those. One barrier, and I believe that we have enlightened teachers here, but one barrier which I have often come across is padhai aise hi hoti hai, right? This is the way teaching has to be done, right? And this is where the teacher-centric education model versus student-centric education model. This is this is one of the barriers. The other barrier that I come across also in my meeting with lots of teachers is this whole thing, what I call in this bucket of cynicism. Can thinking about thinking be taught? Can we teach thinking about thinking, right? And then this whole thing about time kahan hai, which is the real problem. I don't think avoidance is the right thing. And then the whole ability thing, kaise padhao, what should I and how should I teach? So I'm going to focus mostly on the last part, the fourth part, in the next few slides. So I'm going to cover strategies for teachers, and the next few pages will uncover. And before I go there, only one word of caution, that these are not comprehensive, right? All of us are free to find our own strategies. I only listed some of the things that we have tried. I have few hands raised. Ragini Gupta, you want to add something?
No, that's fine, sir. Fine.
Okay.
Can continue.
Right. So now ACER, you might be aware of ACER, Australian Council for Education Research. They have come up with this critical thinking framework, which I took from a research paper. And this is ACER's critical thinking framework. They say that there are 3 pillars of critical thinking. This is the first pillar, what they call knowledge construct. The second is evaluating reason, and third is making decisions. So in their mind, critical thinking starts from having the knowledge and then finding or evaluating the reason and then leading to decisions. So if we are thinking and if we can take this thinking to decision making, then we are in the journey of critical thinking. And in knowledge construct, they say that can we teach students to identify gaps in knowledge? Now, this is the real thing, right? Most often when we are in a prescriptive mode, we don't talk or we don't teach students to identify gaps in knowledge. We think that the knowledge that we have taught is the ultimate knowledge, right? Babur was born in this, and Mughals, they came and they plundered this. And so these are the absolute truths of knowledge. But we can, if we can, sort of trigger this debate to say, what could be the gaps in this knowledge? Can you go and do some sort of research? We are pushing children in the path of critical thinking, right? And in that journey, they would be dissecting information, they would be identifying patterns and making connection. And then they go to this whole block of identifying the assumptions, applying the raw logic, and justifying the reason. So I'm going to walk you through one simple example as in the next slide. But this is the journey that ACER advocates, or they have suggested, which I downloaded from this research paper from the Core University, right? Here's a famous saying by Leslie Lamport, which says that, the English teacher here and everyone will agree with me, if you are thinking without writing, you only think you are thinking, right? So a good thinking should culminate into some form of writing, and through writing, the clarity of thoughts or or the confusion of thoughts both become clearer, both come out, right? We as teachers, we really know this. So writing is an important process. Now, there is a 6-step process for critical thinking, which is called ideals. I'm not going to take a lot of time. I'm only going to share those steps. The first part of ideal is identify the problem, right? So in our class, we can ask students to identify the problem. What is the real question we are facing? D stands for define the context. So it's every problem exists in a background. So it's like a foreground and background. We have to set the background. We have to set the background, right? And then we come to third step, which is enumerating the choices. So what are the options that we have to solve this problem, right? And then we analyze options, which is the fourth step. And then we come to the fifth step, which is give the reason for after analysis. Then we state the reason why we have chosen what we have chosen. And then the sixth step is very important. We often forget, right? So once we have made a decision, then we observe the decision to say that whether or not it was a good decision to make, right? So these are the 6 steps. And you can take these steps and you can apply this in any subject, in any situation that you are, or any topic that you are teaching. So these are fairly easy 6 steps. Call this ideals, and this can be applied anywhere. But I'm taking this ideal to a situation. Basically, a critical thinking class, I think it requires 4 elements. The first element is to have a ill-structured problem. Ill-structured is very important. Just giving problem is not will not suffice, right? So you have to craft a problem which is not well formed. Now, when it is not well formed, then it leaves down the space for someone to start thinking, to make the problem well formed, right? To start thinking how to form this problem in a better manner. It's like giving a slice of mud to an artist and then asking her to sculpt a butterfly or to sculpt a face, right? So it has to be an ill-formed problem. Then the next step is very important. Just giving the mud does not, or just giving this right, mud and a knife does not help. You have to lay out the criteria for assessing the thinking, right? So the rubric that you are going to use to assess the thinking should be laid out there, right? And then the student, it should be so good that student can self-assess. And then finally, you have to come to this feedback loop, or what we call the learning loop. So I now take you through a very simple example that we use in our entrepreneurship, in our financial literacy, in our design thinking, in our leadership, in our communication lessons that we learn at various schools. So whether it's HDFC, whether it's TPS, whether it's Ryan's, multiple places, Vasant Valley, all these places, these courses have been running. And I'm taking one simple case study from there. So what is an ill-structured problem? An example of a simple ill-structured problem is in your class. You can give, and you can create a variant of this. I'm only giving one simple case study, right? How is IRCT's website different from Make My Trip, right? So students can go look at these 2 websites and then start looking at how are they different. Now, this is a poorly structured problem because you can go and look at any part of the website and say, sir, isme train zyada aati hai, usme train kam aata hai, usme aeroplane hota hai. That thing does not give ship boat cruises. This is only about tourism and train ticketing. That's about plane, all those sort of stuff, right? They also sell insurance. These guys don't. So it's a loosely defined problem. So then we come to the second stage, which is important. We have to give the criteria for assessment. If you don't give this criteria for assessment, learning stops, critical thinking stops, then copy and paste starts happening, right? So then you say, I want you to evaluate or do the analysis of IRCB website with Make My Trip website in terms of the structure of the website, in terms of content, in terms of usability, in terms of products and offer, whatever you want to say, right? So basically you have laid down the criteria. You can go in more details. Now, depending on what class, what grade you are teaching, you can make the criteria more complex. Start with simple and then make it more graded as we move forward. Right? Make sense? If it makes sense, a show of thumbs for me, then I know that we are all in this together, in this journey, right? Thank you. Okay. The third part of it is you have to give a framework to students, right? To think about thinking, right? So how do we give this framework? Now, that framework would be something like this, right? So it's an open-ended set of stuff, but it starts feeding into my mind. It starts feeding into the mind of the student, right? Why do you think Make My Trips menu is easier to use than IRCTC's? Now, this is a very open-ended question. Now, it requires some sort of exploration. It's a why question, right? It's an open-ended question. Why is the color scheme of the website like that? Why is the Make My Trips color scheme dark blue and a bit of red? And why is IRCTC navy blue and in yellowish, right? And then ask them to start thinking. Why do you think one color scheme is like this? What is the reason for so you have to give this some sort of a open-ended framework where the learning starts happening, right? Where the research happens. Only when the research happens, then we are in the zone of critical thinking. It's a zone of exploration where we are opening up minds, where new thoughts can come in and the new learning starts seeding in. And these are learnings for life, by the way, right? These are not one question which is there in the textbook for which you are giving an answer, right? So open this up. And this cannot be, for God's sake, a fast process. It has to be a slow process, right? And the best learning happens in the slow process, right? It can be a mini project. It can be activity-based learning. It can be a discussion. You can form discussion groups. You can form learning circles. 4 students sitting together. They all come up with an answer first, and then they discuss, and then they debate, and then the learning starts ticking because multiple points of view start coming in, right? And finally, we have to give the learning loop, and learning loop is all about our feedback to student. What you might have missed, right? My rubric, my assessment rubric, what you might have missed. You can also think in this manner. And allow them to correct their mistake, right? That revision of things. So that's how we complete the whole learning cycle, right? Does that make sense, friends? So I walked you through a process, 4-step learning, open-ended question, a ill-defined problem, the criteria for assessment, the learning framework for students, right? The thinking framework for students, and then finally close the loop by giving feedback, by assessing, by using your rubric assessment system, whatever assessment systems you want to use, right? It is not a MCQ-based assessment system. It's not a long-form writing-based assessment. It can be a long-form writing, right? But it's a sort of a work where it's a dynamic engagement between student, teacher, group of students and students, and it's far more richer learning which sticks for long-term success in life, right? So this is one pedagogical tool which we use, and we can create this into a case study-based pedagogical tool. So, for example, this summer we have this BOSS summer program where we have created 10 challenges for school students as summer program. They can come join and do that learning experience. So those are the things which happen. And then the feedback loop it's very important to complete the feedback loop, right? You have heard this whole terminology called flipped classroom, right? So teacher lecturing versus learning becomes a self-learning loop through right questions, right? And that is the mantra of critical thinking skills. I elaborate this further. In elementary schools, we can, or at the elementary level, we can use learning cards, puzzles, mazes, all those sort of stuff, right? Modeling blocks, mind, mind maps, bring in open-ended questions sooner, because the learning muscles habits start getting built early. Pattern recognition, role play, and we are a big fan of something which is called learning log. Now, learning log is a small book, a diary, a learning diary which we give. We don't want students to fill day after day, day in, day after day, but at the end of the week, we ask them, whatever you have learned, only 3 things if you can capture, right? Now, multiple things happen. Some students will have recency effect. Friday ko jo learning bhi, they will only talk about Friday learning, would have forgotten about Monday learning, all that. And some students will only write about things that they enjoyed. So some learning which stuck, they will start writing about that, right? So it's also a feedback to us that what's not working. So we use learning logs, and we use learning log across all age groups, all age categories, right up to senior executive level where we train. Middle school, we start this 5W and 1H. So what, who, what, why, where, how, etc. The make schema. Now, if you ask students to make a schema, if you open up some learning and then ask them to make a schema, which could be a visual stuff, learning starts becoming more, so you have to stack up information in a particular order. It's like a scorecard. It could be like a library card. It could be some sort of a algorithm or a flow chart, right? Or a mind map, and it starts making interesting. A problem identification project, not problem solving project, problem identification project, right? Don't push everyone to problem solving mode always. Problem identify, right? So it's an important thing. Improvement projects as a technique, learning circles, so group of 5 students working together and cross-sharing the learnings, right? Model making, fact or opinion. So one of the teachers right now shared this whole newspaper stuff. We can actually, in this world of fake news, we really have to take students to this fact or opinion based reading of newspapers, right? Because the world in which we are living, it keeps on feeding us facts laced with opinion and colors our judgment. So if we can help students distinguish fact versus opinion, I think it's going to be a big, long-term contribution. Debates, right? Open-ended debates, classroom debates, not necessarily that you bring everyone into the podium and make them debate. A classroom debate, group discussion, for and against sort of stuff. Ideathons that we do, right? These are all critical thinking strategies that can be employed in classroom. And as we move for senior level, there's a technique which is called 5 why technique. If you really want to go deep into anything, ask why 5 times, right? And that's how you start thinking deep. That's how you build critical thinking. So 5 whys: introduce case studies, simulation-based learning, team projects, get different points of views, help people see different points of views, tinkering, prototyping, hackathons, ideathons, community teaching. So newspaper-based learning, fantastic. Can we bring community teaching? Because through teaching, the learning also increases. Then this whole business of whole world of reflective thinking, because reflective thinking, as you all know, is a deeper process. We have to teach students to say what it means. If I have read anything, then what it means to me, what it means to my society, what it means to family, what it means for country, what it means for the problem that we are having in hand, right? That kind of reflection-based learning, it can go a long way in building critical thinking. So friends, you can take the screenshot, but I'm going to share, if you're on the WhatsApp group, we'll share this presentation on the WhatsApp group. So please join. Shipra and Vandana, if you can put the WhatsApp group, I'm sure WhatsApp group people are there in the WhatsApp group, but if you can just put the WhatsApp group link here, or any teacher, if you can put in the chat box, it would be very easy for me. I'll not have to switch my screens. So we'll put the presentation there. I can go on and on, right? So TDM strategy is think, discuss, make, think, discuss, make, think, discuss, make, right? We think, discuss, make. These are five W's and how, right? So there could be multiple pedagogies which are there, which can be used. Asking the right question. Okay. It's very important. It takes a hell lot of practice to come to a stage where students learn to ask the right question. We say that Google is garbage in, garbage out, but I'm a power user of Google. Ask the right question, you get great answers. Ask bad questions, you'll always get garbage, right? So in class, we have to teach students to ask the right question, right? What do you think about this, right? Why? What are the assumptions? Because very often we come to conclusions or decisions based on our assumptions. And if we start challenging those assumptions, new learnings happen, right? What does this imply? What does it explain? What does it connect to? What does it lead to? What is your point of view? Where are you coming from? Can we also look at this problem in this manner, right? And if we sort of start scripting these questions, students mimic us, they learn from us. So the sooner we start scripting these questions, our classrooms become very important, right? So friends, with this, I come to my last slide. This is, author William Deswich, who says that only by concentration, sticking to a question, by being patient, by letting all parts of mind come to one place, I arrive at an original idea. That is critical thinking. And he's a best-selling author. It is a slow process. Don't rush to give answers to your student. Hold back as much as you can. Let them speak, right? We are facilitators, not answer providers. Answers are available on ChatGPT. Today, answers, we have got better version of Google now. Students are using it. They are writing answers on ChatGPT. But we have to help them ask the right question and then integrate help them integrate different strands of knowledge. That's the role of facilitator. That's what we do. We have multiple programs, etc., etc. If you have any question, please put your questions. I'm stopping my screen share. Very happy to take questions right now.
While you think of questions, please also fill in the feedback form, which will also capture your attendance. Put the questions on the chat box, or maybe even 3 of your takeaways from the session today. Thank you.
Right, friends, any question, anything that you want to, we'll share this presentation, but any question that anyone has, please feel free to ask. Let's keep, let's see where we do.
No questions, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anyone, thanks. If you have any other topic, we'll again come back in a month with a new topic, and we'll again take opinion poll from you to come with a new topic and have the masterclass. This time we are going to involve a good world-class speaker from a
Session was awesome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Session was awesome. And you gave chance to each and every, at least you tried to give chance to each and every teacher, and it was active participation from our side also. So session was good.
Okay.
Ma'am, teachers, can I request you to please fill in the feedback form? Also, anything that you would like to share on the chat box or ask questions, or your learnings or your takeaways from the session today, maybe just for everybody's understanding.
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
The topic is well explained, sir. Within 1 hour, you have completed each and every point. We have got a very good clarity about the critical thinking. We always hear this competency, critical thinking. These are very what you say called after this NEP document has come, these are the words which is just lingering in our mind. So you have given a very good clarity. Thank you, sir. Hoping to get another session with another interesting topic. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay. So, teacher, before you go, I just want to talk about, we are doing a financial literacy, All India Financial Literacy quiz on 25th, 26th. The information will be put on the WhatsApp group. If already we have got about 2,000 plus registration, but anyone, if you want to send your student, will good learning for them. This is
Sir,
on this.
they can participate only these 2 days only, 25 and 26.
Yes, sir. We have collaborated with Global Money Week. Global Money Week is a OECD body, Organization for Economic Cooperative Development. So they run Global Money Week from 20th March to 26th March. So 25th, 26th, we will complete this. But next month we will come with another financial competition along with CBSE, right? So that's in fine. We will come up with that very soon. We'll talk about that. But if anyone is interested, please, I'll be grateful if you can share this amongst your students.
Oh, sir, sharing, sir. They are participating.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye-bye. Have a great day. Bye-bye.